I guess we need our.
Hey, Russ, you're muted.
Yes, ma'am, sorry.
Whatever you need.
It's okay.
Phone is.
I didn't know if you were on your way to
Yes, two oh
something.
three. I'll give you, this is my
I
work
did have
phone,
a
203
computer like
914.
Kathleen. That could be bigger than life. Kathleen, you are.
Can
like
you
8 feet
imagine?
tall.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
And folks, we are recording, so just so you know, it's on because we turned it on.
Judy, I did get a note. Where is Judy? Yeah, shopping. Hey, Russ, can you unmute me?
Yes, just a reminder,
Are you-
the recording is on and I don't dare turn it off because I don't want to run the risk of it
No.
not recording the regular meeting. Just so.
That's fine.
That's fine. That's fine.
See who's on Zoom,
Okay,
and
So-
if they're asking to speak,
Yes,
so.
but yes.
she has a question for you.
Oh, go, yeah.
No, all set.
Okay.
You'll see all these.
So when they speak, Angela.
Little individual table.
Okay, thank you, but that would be great if you could.
Yeah, 3:30, I'll
Going
just
at
put it all out.
3:30 for us, thank you.
I'll put it out at the end of the day for you, and then all you should have to do is unmute.
Yes, so.
Did you go through the
Angela, do you
town
want me to
situation
ask
in
each
each
person who
town to
wants
do
to
this, or
speak?
did you
That's
do this?
typical. Their
Yeah.
name and their
Yeah, that
address.
would-
Or do you want the rest
Oh,
of
that-
them that
was
are
this
on
true?
Zoom?
Well, I
to
think
be
Joe?
identified?
I think
Joe?
it's, you know.
I don't know, we've never done that in my
No,
history,
but-
Angela,
So we will,
I don't care
That's
really.
great
I'm not-
information.
but I don't know who put it together.
okay.
Russ, can you put us back on not mute? Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, everyone was having conversations and recording is on, and the meeting has not started, so go ahead,
Okay.
ma'am.
The 5 o'clock is now, well, I don't know, he may end up coming back, but right now he's not coming on at 5 o'clock, so. So it's Sevi, John Howe, and Kevin Monahan. That's the three that are coming for the 12th.
Yeah, and the only reason I hit record early was to show her how to do it, and I'm terrified to turn it off now because I don't want to lose it.
We can't start we have to start in 10 minutes anyway.
Yeah.
So you're 7:30, 4 o'clock tomorrow. I have the link in there, so yeah, I'll get you started.
Oh, thank you so much.
You got it. All you gotta do at the end of the day is hit end and then shut down the room.
Yeah, and at the beginning, I had to
You don't have to do any of that. I'll turn it all on.
Yeah.
All I gotta do is unmute it.
unmute it
And
and
record.
hit record.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's what we have to remember for tomorrow, guys.
Okay. I screwed up the record the first time, so don't feel bad if it happens.
I mean, this is semi-official and I'll ask it. Can we just schedule people when we get them set on our group one? Or do we, like, the potential is that you could be shooting for the same date as me and,
No, I have been sending Jennifer my days as I've accumulated them immediately.
you
So
do,
nobody else,
for the small group?
well, for either conference room, just so we know who's using it.
Okay,
So, yeah, because they're coming all at once, or they
Yeah.
don't return calls for days. So it's, yeah. Today was like 4 people, boom, boom, boom. It's just quick.
I did you?
Yes. More cold and snow.
Yeah.
I can see 2 groups showing up at the same time. We would be just funky.
Well,
It's all right. We live.
Yeah,
We'll go to another, that's
And
what
we
we
can use the
do.
glass conference room.
That's
over there,
right.
But
Yeah.
then that requires a little pre-advanced coordination, to make sure that someone from IT or somebody can
Yeah.
get it set up in advance.
Well, that'd be a last minute.
Yeah, it would. And it's the dance of, is there another town body meeting that's using one of those rooms? So then you're
Oh,
out.
no.
Well,
But
this is
no, I
where,
sent it to her right away. I mean, the same day, because
You
I
did?
thought, that she's got this list and I don't know who else is taking the days, so. And I seem to be the only one that's already confiscated the whole.
well, I've just been, I mean, I've got a plan in my mind, but I've been hesitant to go out and start booking all of these people, not knowing what
Okay.
others are doing too.
Well,
And
that's,
if-
but you're all getting my emails. Those are the
Yes.
ones that,
I suspect.
and the ones that we want to come in as a group, the major commissions. We've only got 3 of them so far, so it's
Well,
not,
like,
Not everybody.
I'm the scheduler for the Board of Ed,
well, that one's fun, yeah.
but that's right after this at the high school on a Tuesday.
Oh, you're going there?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask.
Oh,
Could we do that?
whatever.
Or-
Oh.
I hadn't thought of that, yeah.
I think 10 years ago, the CRC actually just took part in meetings of certain government bodies where that was,
Well, that would
With it.
make more sense.
Yeah, it makes a tremendous amount of sense if they're meeting anyway. Look, can we get on your
I mean,
agenda?
we're doing it for the Inland Wetlands Commission.
So the Board of Ed, I will go ahead and approach them about being on their next meeting,
Yeah.
which is, I think, it's right after this
For
meeting.
group 1, we need to leave this meeting.
Well, they start at 7, so,
Well, we finished at 7.
so we could be second on the agenda.
Yeah.
Well, remember, if we're interviewing them, it's our meeting and we're not part of their agenda. They're part of our agenda.
That's why I
We
like
have to
having
set
them
up
come.
our own meeting.
I just don't know that we'll get them to come, and they're a major one, so I
Well,
would think.
no, do it like we just did with them on, say, okay, start your meeting at 7.
Those who are joining
Half
the
hour.
room, we are
There's a
recording and we
CRC.
are live.
Okay.
Our meeting. your meeting starts immediately following.
Or we
the
could,
end of ours.
if we could agenda our meeting at 6:30, we could have them start immediately at 6:30 too.
Well,
Because they-
what time they get.
They start at
Chris.
7 at the high school.
The point is that,
It's gotta be,
they have to be they should be separate meetings.
okay,
I like that, but, you know.
okay.
Chris, I think, can I just interject maybe? Chris, I think you can go either way. We've done this in the past, whether it is our own meeting, whether it is a board, other board like Board of Education, Board of Finance, where we're invited as guests. Either one is comfortable. I get your position on inland wetlands. In terms of separating them, that's totally fine. But I think in many cases where, you know, we're a small part of a larger agenda, that's also works just fine. There's no requirement that we have to have our own separate meeting.
Right, but the dynamics are different. If we're an agenda item on someone else's meeting rather than we have a meeting and we want them to come and talk to us about a charter, it's very different as opposed to they're inviting us in to talk about the charter.
The minute taker, is she coming?
Either way,
She's here. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I'll ask if we can do that and see how they respond to it and just, it's,
If
Convenience.
Kathleen doesn't care, then it doesn't matter.
okay. Okay,
I think it's the wrong approach, but
I think in certain circumstances, and particularly Chris, in your case on the inland wetlands, I think it was appropriate that we have our own listing as our own meeting. Almost on a case by case basis, but let's hear from the chair of the Board of Education to make that decision. What's convenient for them.
I will do my darndest. Plus you get the benefit that I'm here to turn all the stuff on.
Yeah. Yes.
But I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, 2 minutes.
Just so everyone knows, mics are hot and meeting is being recorded. And a reminder, you gotta push the little button to talk.
Oh, so we
You got
should just
one?
turn off, yeah.
You got one? Okay. You got one too, okay. So we could, all right, we can share.
Well, we can-
He's con-
No,
it's fine.
Immediately, you can't hear anything else going on. No, 2 minutes. And
1
so far,
minute.
the only Zoom participant is Kathleen. So far.
All right, so I won't ask her. Oh, she can go with the roll call.
It looks like she's in a really nice cruise ship.
She's got it made.
It'd be really nice.
I wanna be where you are.
Yeah.
I know where it is.
The
Now,
other
what is
end
the
of the
local
earth.
time, Kathleen?
Africa.
It's 1 a.m.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
But hopefully the seas are nice and calm.
They're kind of choppy tonight for some reason.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay. We're good.
As long as the chairs don't go sliding in the background.
Are we ready? Okay. We'll call the regular meeting and agenda for the Town of New Canaan Charter Revision Commission for Tuesday, January 6th at 5 p.m. Okay, roll call. Judy Neville here.
Thank you. Mr. Case?
Here.
Miss Corbett? Yes.
Here.
Miss Holm?
Here.
Miss Jameson, I'm here. Mr. Kimes?
Here.
Mr. Lampert? Mr. LeBrie?
here,
Miss Neville has already said she's present. Mr. Parlow?
here,
Mr. Parrott?
Here.
And Miss Willett?
Here.
So all members of the Charter Revision Commission are present this evening.
We have any other Zoom members on that we can't see? Can
Just
you
Kath-
introduce yourselves?
Just
No?
Kathleen is the only one I see from the
That's the only
commission.
one, okay, well, they may.
There are other people in the room, but
All
from the
right.
commissioners.
Would the other people in the room like to introduce themselves? We're going to keep more of an accurate count.
John Goodwin, 70 Bay Road.
Thank you.
Eric Toon, Town Council.
Penny Young, Town Council.
John Engel, Planning and Zoning.
John Carlson, person.
Okay, good.
And on Zoom, you have Kimberly Norton and Tucker Murphy.
Okay. All right, did we get those two? All right. Okay, review of the draft minutes of the special meeting of the Charter Review Commission on December 16th. Any changes? Yeah.
This is Angela Jameson. So I received a suggested change from Commissioner Parlow. It relates to paragraph 7, data review, and he would like us to replace what is currently there with the following. Commissioner Parlow presented 2 analyses. The first provided a summary of information from the charter showing various attributes of town departments. The second provided a series of comparison and contrasts among Fairfield County towns using a variety of characteristics. Both analyses are posted in the meeting packet.
Any changes? Anyone disagree? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Aye.
Okay, any public comments? If the people on Zoom are sure. John. You can sit anywhere. We'll give you a mic.
Okay, thank you. John Goodwin, 70.
It should be green if it's on.
It's green. John Goodwin, 70 Bayberry Road. First, thank you for the time. Thank you for your support and endeavor. I'd like to address a couple of issues that I understand have already been coming up. One having to do with whether some certain commissions should go from appointed to elected status, 2, term limits, and 3, the appointment process for new commissioners. And I know I got 3 minutes, so I'll try to keep it real tight to that. Context with me, for those of you who don't know me, I spent 16 years on planning and zoning. I chaired it for about 6 years. I chaired the 2009 market demand study, which Think TDAC has ultimately came out of that. I sat on the town hall building committee with Kathleen, and I spent 1 year as chair of the Affordable Housing Committee. I am not in favor of converting certain appointed positions to elected positions. My educated guess from my experience when I was a chair is probably 75% of commissioners would not be willing to run for elected office. For example, in addition, in the case of planning and zoning, some of the backgrounds are very technical in nature. So the idea that, elected people who would run who don't have certain backgrounds would be a further detriment to the capabilities that we'd have on the commission. When I was chair, for example, on the commission, of course, in addition to the RTC, the DTC, the selectmen, I spent a fair amount of my time doing my own recruiting. Let me know, it was tough to do. I also, during that time, participated with planning and zoning chairs for other towns, which were elected, and their feedback to me was extremely difficult to get strong elected participants on their commissions. The last thing I'll say on this is, so the bottom line is, I think if we went to elected, we would significantly decrease the quality of the commissioners on certain commissions. The last thing I'll say is, for those who do want some of these commissions to go elected, be careful what you wish for. I found that on a number of specific applications having to do with planning and zoning, for example, sometimes the greatest political pressure I got was when we were perceived to be overly representing the interests of the neighbors. So be careful about that. Term limits, I'm not in favor of term limits either. What you find on commissions is institutional knowledge and technical knowledge is extremely important. Probably the best example is my friend Gene Grislecki, who was the secretary on planning and zoning for a long time. When I became chair, if we had term limits, Gene would have long ago been asked to step down. The advice that she gave me, where she knew bodies were buried, where she supplemented my knowledge was massive. So I think we would be losing institutional knowledge. Now, so what do you do when a commissioner gets a little too long in the tooth? My experience is actually between the chairs as well as the Board of Selectmen, the first selectman. Generally, there's ways to ease people out of their positions. And it can be awkward sometimes, but it is very doable. Last item I want to comment on is, and maybe this is more of best practice, maybe it's not a charter issue, but think about it, is when I was chair, of course, as we all know, the way most of the candidates become available is it goes through the DTC, the RTC, and then it comes to the first selectman and the selectmen. Sometimes they're not the best candidates. Sometimes they're put forward for political reasons. Maybe they need something to do, whatever it is. And so what I recommend is, and this has been a practice that's been followed off and on, but what I recommend the Charter Commission consider is that the chairperson of the relevant commission or committee be part of the decision-making process to approve an appointee or not approve an appointee. And, you know, and my point here is my experience over the years is, you know, sometimes there was a good close working relationship between the chair and the first selectman. Sometimes there wasn't. And you, again, using planning and zoning as an example, planning and zoning, you need some people with very important technical backgrounds. And so I think very often you just have to be out there making sure that you're getting candidates who are, you know, they're good people, but they also fill what I think of as a portfolio of different backgrounds and capabilities. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else who would like to speak? You want to go now? Sure, whichever, yeah.
Sorry, you were wanting to say it. I'll just
I'm sorry?
You never responded to my.
No.
I wrote a paragraph in 5 bullets. I won't take that long. In a recent Sentinel column, I wrote about the value of what we're losing. I meant buildings, landscapes, and neighborhoods that disappear forever once approved. Preservation in New Canaan isn't failing because people don't care. It's failing because our rules make demolition easier than reuse. The Charter Revision Commission doesn't decide what gets built, but you do define the structure that governs how loss happens, or whether it's slowed, questioned, or prevented. And once that structure is weakened, it's very difficult to restore. The Charter Revision is an opportunity to decide whether preservation is treated as a priority, like it says in the POCD, or as a courtesy. Bullet 1, here are the opportunities in front of you. 1, block dedicated funds, meaning affordable housing, land acquisition, and a preservation fund, which I mentioned in the article. We don't have that yet. We have the affordable housing. We have the land acquisition, though we don't fund it. So we need to make that a priority. And you have the possibility here of defining perhaps a preservation fund and how it's used. 2, explicitly include architectural and landscape preservation in P&Z's mandate. In the article, I mentioned not only P&Z, but the Historic District Commission. Opportunities to expand the district have been discussed recently by P&Z. But if this becomes important to us, let's find a way to get it into the charter that preservation matters. 3, create a permanent conservation and preservation commission so buildings, trees, and land are treated as one system. 4, preserve independent review authority rather than concentrating override power. And 5, write a charter that slows irreversible loss instead of accelerating it. I want to point out to you that the state has just, and hi Ira, I just noticed you're there. The state just passed, 5002, House Bill 5002 just became law, and it has caused our priorities on P&Z to change rather dramatically in the short term to address some of those changes. For example, you have the right to knock down buildings in the Magic Circle and build up to 16 units of housing without providing parking. So when those kinds of things are allowed at the state level, we have to address them at P and Z level to say, okay, what 5%, or I think it's perhaps, Ira, correct me if I'm wrong, 8% of the town do we want to exempt from that new state mandate? So P and Z is scrambling to address these things. I'd like to see P and Z working with the charter, with the historic review board, with the town council to make preservation more of a priority, to identify what's worth keeping, write it down, and give it some strength. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I figure there's a lot of detail here and we could be here all night.
Could you just elaborate on when you're knocking a building down, what the extension in the Magic Circle means?
So two things. We currently, the only protection is a demolition delay, and we've been playing with that for the last 10, 20 years about making 90 days or 60 days or 30 days, review period. But ultimately, the only teeth we have now is to delay it 90 days, after which the owner can knock it down. The Magic Circle was, I think, goes back to the 40s or 50s, where it said anybody who's in that Magic Circle downtown does not have to provide parking because we have ample opportunities for municipal parking. However, the Magic Circle, Main and Elm Streets in the Magic Circle were largely 1, 2, up to 4-story buildings. And so if the density increases, then we're going to have to readdress how we feel about the Magic Circle. So it stands to reason that the P&Z may identify the Magic Circle as part of that 8% that's exempt from the 5002 law, but we can't use that exemption to protect everything. We may have to use other vehicles like an expansion of the Historic District Commission or an overlay zone. Some of these are tools of the P&Z, but I encourage you to just consider what tools you have available to you to give sort of strength to these arguments.
John, I understand what you said, but what exactly is it that, if you were writing the charter, what exactly would you do? Because all the bodies that we have today have the power to cover all of the points you made. So what are we missing?
So 10 years ago, when I was part of this review, we created an audit committee. We said an audit committee was important, and we were going to address, deficiencies. I think that the current deficiency that we have is on preservation, and I think that it's there's a lot of hand wringing over some of the new developments by people in town, and they want to know, what are we doing about that? I'd like to see, instead of just pointing at P&Z and say, you figure it out with a rewrite of the planning and zoning, I'd like to see that you some way signal that this is important, that you take the language from the POCD and then you formalize it in the charter and at least, say this is important to us. Because when we go to court, we want to point to our historic district. We want to point to, it's the only reason we won that case is because the Vine Cottage is in the historic district and because we defined it early. You are the definers. So if you define what's important to and permanent, not trendy and not a development here or a development there, if you define what's important and permanent, then we're going to have a much better leg to stand on in court and elsewhere.
John, we've expanded that district before. I don't recall it going in the charter. I thought it was a separate process. Is that correct? Yeah. Is that correct or no? I'm just
not sure.
Does it need to be, I guess is my question, in the charter?
Well, normally it's defined and then put forward to the state, to SHPO.
Yeah.
To then who basically memorializes it. And there's a certain amount of documentation that has to be produced for the state to sign off on it. then it becomes eligible for certain like grants and other things that can support activations. Like, so Silver Mine is another district, which has basically been designated by the state. Yeah, and you go through a state review board, to which you go through the state district. And there are basically, I wouldn't say protections, but designations that then support that activity.
But your assertion is that by creating a separate government body or commission that has a sole responsibility on that, it potentially could give more weight in court or other.
10 years ago, we debated the Ethics Commission, whether it should go in the charter, ethics and audit. And we decided that we wanted to send a signal in this room that those were really important. And so they got put in the charter. They don't have to go in the charter. You know, I don't think structurally they changed that day, but it signaled to the people of New Canaan that the Ethics Commission, you know, was very important to us, and audit as well.
And I would just note that the Historic District Commission is not mentioned in the charter at this point in time.
Right, I think, I agree, that's an omission.
That's easy.
Yeah.
I guess I'd like to know point by point, and maybe we could go through this when P and Z comes in as a commission. Exactly what they want to make your lives easier. Otherwise, I know this process, it takes forever to go through the state. So if you could encapsulate that, I think that'd be really helpful.
Well, I think we should also ask the
Yeah.
historic district, Tom Misley and Dean to come in as well. And
Yeah.
I think,
Well,
Todd,
they
you are a
are.
member of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that just happened is the Supreme Court denied cert with regard to Mr. Karp's appeal of the Red Cross building. And so the ruling is now final that the historic house there is going to remain historic because it's in the district. So the case basically says historic districts trump the ability to get affordable housing. So I think one of the things you might be saying is by expanding a district, does that afford preservation? That's something that you want us to consider as a group here, right?
Yeah, if it became important in the charter, it would signal P and Z that it would be a priority. It would be doing what we said in the POCD is important to us. And the mechanics for that. I mean, I know a lot of people are afraid that that the government is going to force them to do something. This could be, and I put in the article many different ways that they're handling this. Very different in Westport, very different in Palm Springs, very different in Nantucket. How the mechanics, how they do this. For instance, you could have an overlay zone, which is one of the things we're talking about at P&Z now in the regulations. But could you opt in? Westport, for instance, has a list of things they want to preserve, and you opt into the list. Palm Springs, much harsher out in Palm Springs. Everything before 1980, you have to ask permission before you knock it down. So I don't know that we're ready to go to Palm Springs extreme, but we have local examples like Westport that are doing a better job than we are, that we should explore.
But your main ask today is that we consider this.
Yeah, that
And
you
in the charter.
figure out where legally we can put it into the charter such that it reflects our POCD.
Got it.
Yeah. If it makes it easier, absolutely. Yeah. Anybody else? No? Anyone else who would like to speak? We have 3 people on Zoom now. Would one of you like to speak?
I think we're up to 6 now.
Oh, we're up to, all right. Would you like to introduce yourselves? Because I think we just
If-
lost at least
if-
3 of you.
If you wish to speak on Zoom, if you'd be so kind as to raise your virtual hand so that we can see it. And for our note, for the minutes, we currently now have Kathleen Corbett already, Amy Murphy, Andrew Brooks, Kimberly Norton, and Tucker Murphy, along with Ira Bloom in the room. Anyone have anything from Zoom?
Christine, she just came in, Todd just came in. Who else do we have that we haven't introduced? Is that it? Okay,
I have nothing from Zoom.
okay. All right. All right, commission discussion on research topics. You want to go first? You've got a lot of,
On survey?
well, I don't know. You wanted Karen,
discuss the survey?
you wanted to survey first?
Can we do
Karen?
survey?
Okay, that's fine. All right,
So-
whatever.
Thanks to those who tested the survey.
Yeah.
Very kind of you. The survey is ready to go. Karen's compiled a list of places to send it as we're gonna put it out. We have a blurb to basically use, which we can send around for you guys to look at, that will be used to gather input to be put in the Sentinel, Advertiser, et cetera. And then what we were proposing is that at every meeting we come, every 2 weeks, we can send out the output from the survey in an individual sheet as well as into an aggregated sheet to summarize what we found to date. Karen, anything you want to add?
No, I was thinking just after this meeting, we can send that blurb.
Yep.
And the list of organizations that we want to notify, and then you guys have any input, and then we can go live like tomorrow.
Yeah,
Will the results be posted onto a shared drive so we can
I'm
get,
following up with IT about that, yes.
okay, good,
So we can have a shared folder for all of these types of materials.
sure.
Yep.
And thanks to Sarah for her thoughts and comeback based on her their recent survey. So that was very
That was
kind of her to
excellent.
spend some
That
time and
was
give that
really
information to us. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on that?
No, I think we're good. Is everyone comfortable?
When are we gonna get it in sections or spades or weekly or monthly? the
Every 2 weeks.
results?
Well,
Every
just
two?
before we start, we'll put it
Okay.
into the shared folder
All right.
and you guys can look at it and then we can also discuss it at the meeting. Yep.
Okay. All right, anything else you'd like to discuss in all
We've been working on some research topics and done some analysis separately to basically, we put that together in a spreadsheet, so we can also put that once that's together. I was also equally doing research on town clerks and town administrators. So we can start to share that research together. Yep.
Okay.
And Angela Jameson, I'll just add that in the public packet for the meeting of Group 1 tomorrow, January the 7th, there is a spreadsheet that I put together just on elected versus appointed boards and commissions, not only in New Canaan, but in similar towns in Fairfield County.
Angela, if I can ask, what's the source of your data?
Oh, I just looked at the town charters of 6 towns, the 6 towns that Board of Ed uses as comparison. So Darien, Wilton, Weston, Westport, Fairfield, and Ridgefield. And I went to the town charters. I took a look to see which commissions and boards were elected and which ones were appointed. And I just looked at boards and commissions that were the same or very similar to the boards and commissions that New Canaan has.
Thank you.
Did you have the opportunity to speak to anybody from the towns as to whether or not they thought it was working better or worse being elected or so forth?
Not yet, no, but I think that that is a very important thing to do. And I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of members of this commission probably also will have some input there.
Yeah, I think it's important not just to look at what people are
Yep.
doing, but whether or not it's succeeding.
Yep.
How it's worked out.
Yeah, on that subject, we've had a couple of presentations, including one tonight where people have come in and presented their views as to, but we really haven't had a chance to quiz them to talk about, the whys and the wherefores of their opinion. Even John, for example, a very articulate presentation, but there are a whole bunch of follow-up questions. So is that something we'll do in the sort of one-on-one interviews? And if someone's not on the
And
list?
or
yeah.
either one, yeah,
Good.
private meetings, group meetings, and both.
I think it's really important to delve into that because it's a big issue in the town right now.
Big issue.
It's a big issue and it's very reactive without any depth.
Yeah.
So
No, I
you
was
have to really.
Picking up
probe.
on the point that John made, which I think he made, I don't think he's here any longer, but.
Yeah, yeah.
Is he? Is John?
Still here, Bill.
Oh, no.
I haven't snuck out yet.
John, can I ask John a question?
Yeah, sure.
John, I thought your last point was that at time, you know what, having been as involved as you've been, you know much more about this than I do. But you talked about the DNC and the RNC presenting candidates, and sometimes they weren't maybe the right candidate or the best candidate.
Mhm.
So I was sort of wondering, like, why is appointed better than elected? Because, I mean, I would do my own homework, right? And I think that I would sort of always pick the winning horse of the candidates that I like. So just trying to understand your perspective on it.
Well, I think my perspective, and it's funny you should say that, because when I thought about that last point that you brought up, I sort of said to myself, that's countering what I said at the beginning. So my experience, and you guys make it a good point, it's my experience as a database, a little bit, but my experience is simply from, I've had this conversation with so many commissioners in New Canaan, on P&Z and affordable housing, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's a 75%, I have no idea, but a very high percentage of candidates of commissioners would have never gone the election route. So.
Because they don't want to fail?
Can I ask why?
No, they don't.
Because they don't want to fail in the election, or because?
They don't.
Experience.
Huh?
And anybody that tells you it isn't, is lying.
I'm sorry, Dean, is it what?
It's a miserable experience and you have to raise a lot of money and, it is not for the faint of heart and anybody that likes it, you should examine their head.
Yeah, no, I agree with Deanna. I would say to capsulize it's twofold. It's one, people feel they don't have the time to run. And then two is a lot of people don't want to put themselves out there, so to speak.
John, can I follow up? In your experience with speaking with other towns that
Yeah.
have gone to the election, is there any fear that a candidate will be brought forward for a sole issue that they're trying to, like a group of people are trying to get just one issue pushed through, so they'll get somebody there and everybody will just join for that one issue, or is that not something you've seen?
Well, first of all, to be clear, I only spoke to P&Z chairs
Okay.
of other towns. For example, Westport, I think Fairfield's elected, but I've spoken to P&Z chairs. And I can't say that was a specific reason that was brought up with me.
Okay.
It was more that the political process just significantly dwindled the pool of candidates because people simply don't want to, as to Deanna's point, they don't want to put themselves through the process. Bill, did I answer your question?
You did, thank you.
Okay.
We have
Can
another.
I ask a question? John?
Yeah.
John, one question for you. If this were to be put before the electorate, say on the ballot, whether or not the voters would have the choice of whether or not I'll pick P&Z, but whether or not P&Z should be an elected versus appointed. How do you feel about that in terms of leaving it to the voters to decide?
Well, this is going to sound obnoxious, but you asked me a question. Let me put it this way, and all of you here are active participants in town. What percentage of your friends in town really pay attention to and understand what's going on in town? Okay, don't answer that, but so that's part of it, Kathleen. So what's my point? My concern is the electorate would not completely understand the implications of what they're voting for. So
No, that's fair.
politically
That's
incorrect,
fair.
but
More than fair, yeah.
When we look across Fairfield County, we see, when we look across Fairfield County, we see that most of the towns, particularly towns around our size, have elected P&Zs. And that the towns that don't have elected appointed tend to be very different from us. They tend to be Bridgeport, towns that are much bigger. We provided a chart last week that talked about that. So there's maybe 15, 18 towns that are electing and seems to be working. How do you contrast that with some of the statements that you made?
because what the P&Z chairs of those elected have told me is having to go through elections makes it more difficult. And what they've said to me is the talent pool that they need isn't as great. And the last thing that I'll say is when I was chairing planning and zoning, and you could argue whether this is part of my remit or not, but I felt that I had a responsibility to have the right people on my commission. You know, John Engel knows this. I said it a million times. I always wanted 3 architects on P and Z. Now you can argue with is 3 the right number, but I always wanted architects. I always wanted a lawyer. You know, counter Mr. Bloom, keep Mr. Bloom under control. That's a joke, Ira. But no, seriously, I always wanted a lawyer. I always wanted people who understood land use. And so there are, you know, and look, I don't have a land use background, so you can point at me and say, well, what are you talking about? But I think it was always important to me to have certain backgrounds, and you lose that opportunity if you go the elected route, in my opinion.
I think you make a very good point, and I've researched this subject of appointed versus elected. And it really comes down to a simple math that supports your point. If you want to get the job done, appointed is the most efficient way to get talented people into positions.
Yeah.
If you want accountability, you go elected. And I think the reality is there has to be some balance between the efficiency and the accountability. In the 2016 charter review, when they laid out all the metrics of good governance, checks and balances, conflict of interest, they left out accountability. And we're going to discuss this in our group. So
Yeah.
I think the issue that's really here is that some of the people that have been raising the point for elected are really saying we want to have some more accountability in the system.
Right.
And I would argue that the system is a little bit out of balance and that we should give the voters a chance to bring it into balance. Not that one is better than the other.
Yeah.
It's a sense of balance.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No.
I hear what you're saying, but I would argue the point there, and let's talk about planning and zoning again. It's planning and zoning when I was on it. I'm no longer on it. There was accountability. You felt the pressure. And as I said earlier, you know, frankly, sometimes it was better, sometimes the interests of the neighbors, because as I understand it, you know, sometimes the interests were better represented by non-elected people. But there is accountability. I can promise you there's accountability. The pressure I got, the pressure of the other commissioners.
I don't mean to imply irresponsibility, but from a
Oh, no, I know.
standpoint.
No, I'm simply making the point that to say there wasn't accountability, I would respectfully disagree. There was a different type of accountability.
I mean accountability to the voters.
Yeah.
The citizens.
And I would argue that passed through, and this is where it goes back to what my third point, but it passed through the elected officials of the town. You know, ultimately it was the selectmen who, right? It's selectmen who appoint members of the commissions. So you do have accountability, I would argue.
And for ethics and for the audit committee, the town council also has to. So
Okay.
every board but those two, and the board of selectmen,
Yeah.
the town council also weighs in with the ethics and the.
Right.
We'll see. Are you aware of any towns where the Board of Selectmen do weigh in on the nomination in addition to the first selectman?
Well, they do here.
I'm talking about in other towns.
Other
Did you get
towns.
that?
No, I'm not, I don't have that
Yeah.
expertise. Yeah.
We can find that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just curious
Yeah.
when you
It's a
speak.
good question.
Yeah.
We should know that. Go ahead.
No, just in your kind of reviews of other commissions, have you ever found something where there's both appointed and elected commissioners in something like a planning and zoning?
No, I've never heard of
And
it.
do you see any logic for that at all because I can listen to both sides and say, yeah, I agree.
I'd have to think about it. My immediate reaction is I don't see the logic.
Okay.
But again, I guess there's an assumption that you sit on planning and zoning, you're not accountable.
No.
From on the ground experience,
No, I don't share that assumption. I think anybody that serves is doing their duty. It's just getting in other opinions. I could think
Right.
of.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
much problem.
Again, the bottom line is, and is it 75%? I don't know, but I have a serious, I don't think I would have run for planning and zoning.
Right.
And I spent 16 years on planning and zoning.
Understand.
So you serve as 3 first selectmen?
Judy,
Yeah.
how many came after Judy?
We were in together.
Judy, Kevin, Dion, well, not P and Z, but Affordable Housing Committee, and who am I forgetting?
Rob.
Rob, yeah.
And, so where did you
And
get?
Jeb.
Where did
And
you
Jeb.
get your,
Yeah.
either your sense of accountability or your guiding light or your direction from? Was it, I mean, how does that really work for the town? Who's in charge of the vision? You or somebody else?
When you're the chair of the commission?
Yeah, okay.
Well, you're in the chair of the commission, there's constituents where you do get pressure. I mean, there have been applications in which, there was pressure from constituencies, both in town council as well, in town hall, the greater town hall, town council, et cetera, et cetera. Certainly the neighbors, I know some people will argue this with me, but neighbor input has never been discounted by planning and zoning when I've been on it. I know a lot of neighbors have disagreed, but has never been discounted. So, the accountability at town level as well as input.
John, going back to the last point of your presentation about the ability of the chairman to select members. And that the members come.
Well, I'm sorry, I probably misspoke. I meant to say that, but keep going.
That, okay. But the members now come from 2 sources, the DTC and the RTC. But with party affiliation.
Unaffiliated members.
There's the question
I
to
sent it
him.
out.
How do you get unaffiliated people
So. if
when
you follow
40% of
my-
the electorate is unaffiliated?
So if you follow my newsletter, I have multiple
That's not
times, so that's on you. I, multiple times over the last 3 years, I've sent emails and in my letter, I have called out and said, if you are interested in getting involved in boards and commissions, come to me if you're unaffiliated. Democrats go to DTC, Republicans go to RTC. If you're unaffiliated, come direct to me. And I have interviewed many unaffiliated voters, and I've actually put on 2 to 3 unaffiliated commission members in the last year,
Including me.
including that man only.
And Deanna, if I could just also ask, you on occasion might get an inquiry from someone who is party affiliated, but they choose to go direct to you as well. You don't automatically force them to go through the party. Is that correct?
That's correct. I try to, if someone is with a party, I let the party know that I've
Yeah.
got that inquiry, but I don't necessarily, if I think there's a great candidate and they're, so.
Mhm.
And I bring them to all the, I make sure that all the resumes, when I'm putting someone forward, go in advance to the other selectmen so that they have the opportunity to interview those candidates as well before we, vote to seat someone.
Yeah, and my point was, and I'll use the planning and zoning chair example because Deanna and I did not overlap on that. So you're the only, well, no, we got another first selectman here. But anyway, my point is simply for the charter commission to consider, and I'm not convinced it should be done, but to consider that I always felt that the chairperson, for example, planning and zoning, part of their responsibility is to make sure that they have commissioners who should be sitting should be commissioners. And that the chair is elected to do that. And the chair is a very well-positioned person to assess whether that person should be a member of the commission. And, take into account a number of inputs. But, in my history as chair, and Judy, I wasn't chair when you were there, so you can't get mad at me for this either. But my history was sometimes I was consulted and sometimes I was not. And sometimes a commissioner was presented to me, so to speak, and this person's going to be on planning and zoning and, that's it. And I think it would be good practice either as a good, and the problem is if it's not in something like the charter, then, it may happen or it may not, depending on who the first selectman is. So something.
No,
to
I
consider.
think that's a good point. I think to the extent that we could, we always ask the chairman to speak with whoever was coming through. I don't know if that's continued, but we did that at length.
Yeah. And my experience, even with the same selectman, it was up and down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think maybe if a certain selectman felt that I wasn't going to be wild about a candidate, I was told, so-and-so is now going to be part of P&Z. So.
It worked well for a long time. Laszlo reminded me very recently that when I was in, if there was an issue and everybody was at everybody's throat, he and John Morrow would go out and have lunch, and they would sit there all afternoon, if that's what it took, to resolve the issue. And then they'd come in and sit down and work on me. So, this process worked because people knew who each one, and there was this separation. It was collegial. Pardon?
Capping.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought she was saying something, but I think it could work better. It always can work better.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. Yeah. We could go back to that. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. John.
But Kathleen, could I offer a few comments at some point before you wrap this part up?
Sure. Judy, did you hear that?
Yeah.
John.
John. Okay. After John, is that good? Or you want to interject now?
Oh,
And Judy, also, if anybody's speaking from the audience, if they'd be kind enough to step up and identify themselves and speak through a mic, sort of hard to hear.
Yeah, these two are the only, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wherever you want me, I'm ready to go wherever you want me.
I know. We're almost ready for you. Thank you. John, you want to finish?
I just want to say that having been appointed twice and elected, there's no way I'd be here today if I had to start the process with an election. I spent 7 years on ZBA because Dick Bond sent me down to the RTC. Penny grilled me 22 years ago and said, just exactly what are you bringing to the table? Anyway, they assigned me to ZBA. If I had to go through an election, I would not have gone through that. Because I had gone through an appointment, I had the confidence to go through an election, 10 years on town council. And when I was done with elections and didn't want to, what was the word? Put myself through it. Didn't want to put myself through it one more time. The first selectman said, hey, we could use your experience on P&Z. We've got some high profile technical cases coming up. And I think that your experience would be useful there. And if I had to be elected, I would not have gone from town council to P&Z. So I just wanted to add my own testimony and my own experience that without the system of appointments, I wouldn't have gotten involved originally and it wouldn't have come back into P&Z.
But
So
you had run for election.
I
We're
ran
used to it.
and I won. And even somebody who knows he can win an election isn't going to put himself through that again. Think about Bill Walbert, also a former chairman of the town council. When he was done, he was available to be appointed to building commissions, but he didn't want to go through the election. And same with how I felt. So there's a very chilling effect making somebody go through an election when all you want to do is volunteer for your town.
Yeah, Deanna, yeah.
So I guess I'd like to add a little context as well. Having run for office in 2013 for the Board of Ed. And during that election, I had homemade palm cards and, you know, it was, I self-funded. It was a very low cost, you know, not low effort, but a low cost effort. I mean, a low cost effort. A lot of, you know, time and effort on my part to run. The Board of Ed candidates that run today for the same position I ran for then are spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It is a very different landscape than it was, you know, 10 years ago.
That's true.
Running for first selectman, I was shocked, and I think Amy Murphy Carroll was on this call as well. I was shocked how much money I had to raise to run for that office for a local election. I find it absurd, quite frankly. I think the ungodly amount of wasted money that could be going to charities or much better uses is terrible. And you are putting yourself out there for a lot of Christians. I was willing to do it. Amy was willing to do it. You know, Judy's willing to do it. People are willing to do it.
It's hard.
But it's hard.
Oh, yeah.
And there are some really talented people, and I think, you know, you'll hear from someone, you know, who's very talented in this town. There are people that cannot serve on elected boards, particularly in the financial services industry. You are opted out from service. If, you know, so we would lose some of our most specifically talented people in that area. And then just, Kathleen, I wanted to respond specifically to your comment about putting it to the electorate. And I will just tell you about my own experience, in my own viewpoint, having been in town government. I used to think that the Board of Finance should have been an elected body because it's a very powerful board in this town. Having been and seen what happens in elections in this town, I have turned 180 degrees on that. I think you often get single issue candidates running for office. They have a concern about a particular issue, and that's the only reason they're running. Whereas, you know, the people that I'm interviewing to fill those boards and commissions are people who are well-rounded, dispassionate, looking to serve this community for the best interest of the community, not a single issue that they're interested in having that.
Okay, and Amy's our hand up. Okay. Yeah, Amy, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't going to really weigh in, but since Deanna brought my name up, I'm going to echo what Deanna says and also what John was saying. And John Engel, running is really hard. There's very few things in life you do that are so binary. You either win or lose, and it's really hard. And I agree with Deanna. It's a crazy amount of money. And I agree with John, who's saying these are people who just want to help out in the town. I do think the vetting process we have for people who are appointed is strong and getting stronger. Like just today, we had 2 people we appointed. Deanna's great about sending out the information. I talked to both of them, and I said to both of them, make sure you talk to your chairs. And I do think that avoids getting people who are single issue and have an agenda necessarily. And I think most of us, the agenda we have is just for the town and to help out where we can. That's all.
Ira, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I'll weigh in here a little bit. Ira Bloom, Bertram Moses Town Attorney, and nice to see all of you and Happy New Year. I've been Westport Town Attorney for 28 years as of tomorrow, actually. I offer that just to, since you were talking about Westport a bit, I can offer any perspective. I don't want to necessarily testify tonight. I'm not sure that's my role, but on the other hand, if I can offer anything, I'm happy to do that. I also represent Wilton and Weston, and I've worked for Easton and Madison in the past. So I've worked with both elected and appointed planning and zoning commissions, and you can make an argument for either, I suppose, and I can if you want. My starting point, I think, is to tell you that if it ain't broke, then why fix it? I mean, you have a really good planning and zoning commission. I've worked with the folks on that commission for, I don't know, 12, 13 years now. You get high quality, diverse people, and it seems to be working very well in my observation. I think there is a tendency when it's appointed to get a more diverse group with different skill sets, as John pointed out. And you get the architects, you get the engineers, you try to stay away from the lawyers, I get it. But you get a cross section of people, and I think it's been working pretty well. So I would just keep that in mind. On the other hand, I will tell you that it works with an elected commission too. Westport's had an elected commission, I think since the 1960s, maybe. They had an appointed commission way back. I don't know if it was the 50s or 60s, but I think it's in that period of time when it became elected. I think it's very hard to go from elected to appointed in any charter change. So that's not before you. People do not like to run. I would support that notion. But you do get people to run. Westport had a contested race this year. Wilton had a big turnover. There was a big issue in Wilton about development, apartment complexes. The personnel on their elected planning and zoning commission changed significantly. Is that good or bad? The people had a chance to say something. You'll have to evaluate that. But that worked for that town. You do get single issue candidates all the time. Someone decides to run to oppose a certain project. So that happens. And that's not always a positive thing. So pros and cons, but I think it's working in New Canaan, frankly, the way it is. So I would offer that. I have never seen a combined elected and appointed commission. I'm not sure that's even allowed, but I've never seen it. As far as who makes the appointments, someone asked that. In most towns that I've dealt with, it's the full board of selectmen that makes appointments. Interestingly, the Westport Charter gives a lot of the appointments to the first selectman, himself or herself. So if you looked at that, it's kind of interesting. It's a he right now, he would appoint the town attorney, the police chief, fire chief, et cetera. And there's an elected planning and zoning commission. But in more towns that I've observed, it's the full board of selectmen that would make these appointments, as is happening with you folks also. So those are just some random thoughts, and I'm happy to offer any other thoughts or perspectives tonight or some other night if you'd like. But I thought I should just give you a few comments.
Ira, Bill Perret, in what capacity are you speaking? Are you speaking as a citizen, or are you speaking as our law firm, or what's?
Yeah, I'm speaking, well, I'm here as your law firm, but I wanted to just give you the benefit of my experience.
You may not know this, but we had quite a big discussion about whether we wanted to engage a law firm or not, and whether your law firm would weigh in on issues which, might be controversial. And this issue is probably the single most controversial issue.
Mm-hmm.
I voted for keeping your firm, but I think I made a mistake, because I don't think you should have offered your views. Because it's pretty clear to me that there are a lot of elected officials and other officials who have been elected, and people who've been appointed. John, terrific guy, he's done a great lot of work for it, and I respect his view, play golf with him. But I just absolutely have to tell you, Kathleen, and our, other members of the committee, I'm really disappointed that you offered that. And I'm disappointed that someone asked you to come and make that statement.
No one asked me to come and make any statements, Bill.
I don't, that may be so, but you should not have said what you said.
Oh, all right. Then I'll keep quiet.
And to Ira's point that things are working well, I want to support Bill's statement and comment on Ira's comment that things are working well. We had about a half a dozen people come in the first two meetings that said things weren't working well.
Things are working well for the people who spoke tonight,
People who work for people. who
not
spoke.
for the
Not for
citizens
the
of the
citizens.
citizens.
That's not for the citizens.
That's
Yeah,
the point.
citizens.
That's, we gotta balance.
In one case, there's a lawsuit going up over by St. Luke's School. There were other people that came in and complained about other major projects and things where they were unhappy with certain approvals. And so I go back to the fact, if you want things to work fast and cheap and effective and everybody's happy, pointed is the way to go. We have a chart here from last week where everybody involved in land use in the town of New Canaan is appointed. There's no elected official in the process. Inland Wetlands, Zoning Board of Appeals, 36 people were appointed. And the point that I tried to make to Mr. Engel and make again is that there needs to be some balance, some level of accountability. And the 2016 Charter Commission excluded accountability as one of its metrics. And I think it's important that we put that back.
Angela Jameson, I'd just like to say thank you, Mr. Bloom, for your contribution. And I just want to remind everybody, we're individuals here and we can choose to listen intently and agree with some people, with people who come and present for us, but we can also discount what we hear. We're all going to be making judgments, and I think it's good to just be in listening mode and to gather as many diverse opinions as we can.
I concur with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Open meeting to talk.
Anyone else?
Could I ask you to qualify your comment? You don't know if it would be legal or not to have a mixed elected and appointed, and do some research as our attorney?
Sure, if you'd like us to do that, happy to do that.
Do you want to say something? All right, I want to add to the agenda comments from Penny Young. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you. I just want to say that I'm just following up on Deanna's comment about election process and so forth. And your whole discussion about elected and appointed positions. I would like you, and this is not from a personal standpoint or a position that I hold, but I think it is worthy of your studying the position of elected town council and the authorities that the charter gives to the town council. As an elected body, there's been a good deal of conversation over the years that we as elected officials are not able to fully get into the budget and add to areas that we feel represent what the populace would like, but the selectmen and the Board of Finance have not seen the worthiness of what the citizenry position is. So I think it's worthy of discussing and really studying whether or not the Board of the Town Council should have the ability to add to a budget when we have all the other abilities.
All right. Any other questions on this? We'll move on to the Board of Finance. It's our committee. Todd, welcome.
I'm gonna go sit on the other
To have
side
you.
of the table
I was
because
gonna-
I
you
am
wanna
the
join him
I
to
am the
stay here,
secretary
whatever.
of the Board of Finance,
Okay,
and I will not sit on this board while he's presenting.
okay.
You're appointed.
It's up to you.
But so are all these folks.
No, I know.
It's up to you. Whatever.
Hello,
you're comfortable
everyone. Just hit the button if you'd be so kind. Thank you.
Yeah.
You good? Or hot?
Judy, you can clarify the point that I raised. Communication earlier. Is Todd representing the entire committee or?
That's
wasn't
up
sure
to
about
him.
that.
I offered to have him invite anyone else on the Board of Finance. If not, we will reach out to the other.
I'm
members.
speaking as the chair,
Yeah.
not for any other member. Usually, Chris is a member.
Yeah.
But no, they can
But
come
you haven't
anytime to have
And,
the.
yeah,
haven't
we
collected
will
their
reach
views.
out. if
No,
they didn't
no.
join.
I
Either
would
way.
say, I think I would probably represent their views, but I'm not officially here representing their views, if that's your question. Thank you, and I appreciate that. Well, I prepared some remarks. This is an important conversation, so I took some time to actually prepare a few thoughts for all of you. First, thanks for your assistance and for all the work you're doing on the Charter Revision Board. Todd Lavieri, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a resident for 34 years, volunteer. I hadn't really thought about it, but I actually work on the Board of Finance for 4 select.
Yeah.
When I had to do a lot of work in Japan at one point, so I had to step down because we didn't have Zoom. But here we are with Kathleen for wherever she is. It's very good. So I guess maybe a few thoughts. One, as you do your job, I think I've heard a lot of the comments around what problem are we trying to solve, what's broken, what do the residents really want, and the rest of it, and what are the ways to address those issues with or without a revision to the charter. I think there were recommendations, and I can't remember if it was the last cycle or the cycle before, where we separated the first selectman from the chairman of the Board of Finance. Was that last time? The last time,
Yes.
I think,
Yes.
added an audit committee. Was that last
That
time?
was last.
2 great changes, right? I mean, those were 2 big ones and good ones. So, so I point that out. Obviously, one of the questions does come up is from time to time is whether or not our board should be appointed or elected. Let me take a few minutes. 3 thoughts for you, and sort of the basis for my conversation. 1, it's working. 2, the Board of Finance today is open, it's accessible, and requires a team with skills. You've heard some of that already. And 3, I would say let's celebrate the fact that we're different. We're a stable pillar in this town. And so on 1, the structure is working. As you know, we've got 20,000 residents-ish, 8,000 houses, 11,000 voters. We had a public hearing on our budget in May. Actually, we have 2 hearings, one on the budget, one on the sewer usage fee. Out of 20,000 residents, 11,000 voters. You know how many people came to comment, complain, or raise objections when we voted on the budget? 0.
I know, it's not. many.
Last year, 24, 0. Remember, our budget process has 3 important constituents. The selectmen who bring us the budget, the Board of Finance that votes on the budget, passes it to town council. Selectmen and the town council are elected, so we are sort of in the middle of the sandwich. So there's really great checks and balances with our budget process as it relates to connectivity to constituents and residents and taxpayers, in my opinion. And just because I'm appointed doesn't mean I don't hear about it. Okay, so don't think we're off in a vacuum somewhere. We get a lot of input. Chris knows and everyone else knows that we get tremendous amount of input. We encourage it. I send letters out every 6 months or so out to the town, put on New Canaanite, whatever the case may be, largely because we have a lot of people that are new to this town and don't really know how things work. So, I think if we had 1,000 people show up our meeting or 500 or have, real serious issue, that's something that would have to obviously need to be addressed. We'd know something was broken. I know anybody can write a letter or 10 people can, do something on social media. I know that's the world we live in. That's not to suggest their points of view are wrong or that their input or their concerns aren't important, but I wouldn't think that's why you might change something that's been working for so long. I think over the years, in my opinion, the basis for a lot of the concerns or questions come from a lack of awareness, a lack of data, a lack of facts. Social media doesn't help. It sort of amplifies some of the bad things. We don't have the availability of data and facts and maybe the venues for engagement. I've thought about that a lot the last year. I think our boards and commissions, maybe they need to publish a blog once a quarter. There's nothing out there that does. Again, I wrote letters and updates. I just sent one right before Christmas. You may have seen it in the New Canaanite. Maybe we should hold coffees on a Saturday a couple times a year. I mean, we're all volunteers, and I know what I'm about to go through with our budget, so I'm not looking for more to do. But it could be that the hearings and the meetings and things just don't get the job done on communications. And we ought to think about what we need to do about that. And to some extent, residents don't engage. We hear that, obviously. I think I find most of the questions and concerns come from a lack of information. I get questions like, what's a mill rate? I literally was meeting with someone, bumped into them Christmas shopping 2 years ago, and she was introducing me to somebody that was new in town. I just bought a house. And it was the year we were doing the reval. So the grand list was going to go up 20%. The mill rate was going to drop some percent. And I was going through that answer to this person who knew a little bit more about it. And the person that's just moved into town said, what's a mill rate? What's a grand list? Which I don't have a problem. They were renting an apartment in New York or something. I mean, I kind of get it, but there are a lot of very basic questions. So we have the full spectrum of, senior executives at leading Fortune 500 companies and what's a mill rate. What percentage do we spend on our education? I get that asked all the time, 66%. What's the average interest rate on our debt? Why don't we refinance our debt? We refinance all of our debt. We've saved the town millions in interest expense for that. We need the town and the taxpayers to be informed. And so when we ask about the disproportionate growth, for example, in the school budget over the last 4 years, it's not because we're anti-school. We've spent 2 decades working together to build a #1 district in this town. But we have a responsibility to the taxpayers as a fiduciary, and ask questions and challenge some of the anomalies and the rising costs. Support for our actions and our initiatives from our Board of Finance are largely unanimous if you come to a meeting. That's because we work really hard to get the facts, do our job, and we vote on the best course of action with everyone's input. I think what we have with the Board of Finance works better than the other options. I've met with the Board of Finance leaders from other towns. I can tell you they greatly appreciate the level of civility we have, the level of teamwork that we have, the expertise that we have, and the nonpartisan participation that we have. Number 2, Board of Finance. It's open, it's diverse, it refreshes itself. And just speaking of expertise, requires skills. The great thing about the volunteers and the appointed positions, and some of you have already mentioned this, is that anyone can be eligible to be appointed, but not everyone can run for an election. I'm the vice chairman and president of a public company. Being appointed and volunteering is fine, not political, allows me to share my personal time, my experiences, my expertise in a supportive way, in a helpful way to my community, to give back to my community. Running for election is just not an option, and likely not an option or an available option for many of the volunteers that I have on that board today, including bankers, lawyers, CFOs. I do have lawyers. I want a lawyer. Ask Deanna, who I was asking for the next appointment. I need a lawyer. We had Tom Schulte on our board, and that was an ace in the hole. And so we spent a few less dollars with Ira as a result, but it was important to have someone like that on our board. You can imagine that. And so, we don't want to shut out people and exclude some very hard to find talent that this town is completely blessed with. As I said last month during the recognition evening, as someone said, for the retiring volunteers that was hosted at the Carriage Barn, our town can't afford our volunteers. I thought that was a really good insight. There's one right here. We're also represented by Republicans and Democrats and independents on our Board of Finance. Another important consideration for this discussion regarding the appointed positions are the skills that we need. We're an excellent example. We need lawyers. I'd mentioned that. We have conflicts and contracts and leases and loan agreements and other legal matters. We have people with municipal bond experience. We have to have that. CPAs, CFOs, MBAs, business leaders, people with pension experience, people with construction experience. It's incredibly invaluable for us as the amount of money we spend on our buildings and large capital projects like our schools, town hall, and the police station, which was 6 months early and delivered on $1 million under budget. We had a secret weapon. One of our Board of Finance members is CFO of a construction company. And it was great what he was able to do and keep an eye on the things that he did, personally put the time in to make that happen. I bring a number of experiences from leadership and team building and execution and cost optimization, strategic planning, cyber, software negotiations, all kinds of things like that. It's so important for us to build a very diverse, functional, experienced team. That's what makes the Board of Finance work. Appointments are the best way, in my opinion, to find those skills, source those skills, and add them to the board. If we don't have them, we're going to either pay real money for the expertise, advice, and counsel, or we risk getting the decisions and actions wrong, which is going to cost the town money the other way. So if people don't like the appointed members, they can object to the very sources of the appointments. The elected Board of Selectmen, who I might add, ran unopposed and were widely supported. So again, something's working. The elected committees of the parties, obviously, they also need to be vetted through the town council. I'm not sure everybody's aware of that. So we get lots of checks and balances along the way. The appointment is a 3-year term, an excellent feature. They can be reappointed, of course. We find most roll on, roll off after a period of time, opening up new opportunities for new members. A very healthy regeneration is embedded into the Board of Finance. Many of the members have served less than 6 years. A few of us have served more than 10. I've been chairman for 10. So we need skills, we need healthy regeneration, and I think the current structure really achieves both of those important goals. Lastly, third, let's celebrate that we're different. We're a stable pillar. The town of New Canaan has an optimal solution, in my opinion. Not a good one, a great one. I'm not going to out any of the other chairmen of boards of finance in Fairfield County, but I can tell you they appreciate what we have very much. Let me put it that way. We literally serve just as hard every month of every year. We don't kick the can as other boards do before elections or during an election year. We don't avoid topics or decisions knowing an election is pending. We don't grandstand with promises of reckless spending, reckless cutting. Our town residents and taxpayers demand value and service. Great schools, a beautiful downtown, great parks and recreation facilities like Waveney Irwin and the town pool, We find ways to get things done that the residents want. We're led by our constituents that want great schools for our children, a beautiful library, a new ball field, and then are willingly and generously contributing their time and money, knowing it'll get done and it'll be a success. What better partnership could a Board of Finance have with its town, its other boards and commissions, and its taxpayers? I hear this all year long from residents, new residents who I'm meeting for the first time, and longtime residents. We aren't perfect. I'm sure there are things we can do better, and we'll continue to work on serving the town even better, as we should. Over the past 10 years, we've approved, approximately $1.5 billion in spending. I know that's hard stopping. Spending for ambulances, police cars, emergency services, our school district, town building renovations, maintenance, public works, health and human services. We review it all. We've cut millions of dollars from spending from the budget requests. We've cut millions of dollars of capital from capital requests. We don't cut lightly and we don't spend lightly. We work to find solutions to problems and opportunities. 1% of our 1.5 billion is $15 million. Have we missed 1% over the past decade, or funded something or cut something not everyone agreed with? Probably. We are not perfect, but we should be proud of the accomplishments and successes. And like I said, don't forget, town council can cut the budget. If there's something there that someone suggests we shouldn't have passed, town council get the bite at it. Obviously, we're all part of a process with the town council, with the Board of Selectmen, and I think that balance, check and balance, really works. People often say, other towns have elected boards of finance. Maybe ours is the road less traveled. Maybe ours is better because it's different. Other towns don't have fully funded pensions either, or very well-funded healthcare trust funds. We do, which helps us avoid higher expenses now and in the future. In fact, we just had this conversation. Last year in the budget, I asked our actuary if we were only fully funded, 100% funded in our pension, what would our obligation be this year? $2.5 million. But we're 117% funded. So I think our obligation was 450,000, something like that. Don't quote me, but it was in the hundreds of thousands, not in the millions. And this year it's $600,000, not $2.5 million or $3 million, probably. It's because it is well managed and overfunded. And the health trust is one of the highest in the state, not just in Fairfield County, but in the state. Other towns don't have award-winning finance and audit teams. We do. In fact, we have other towns in this county with elected boards of finance who have not been able to get audits completed. Other towns have elementary schools that leak sewage in their classrooms, or have schools that are condemned or suffer from years of deferred maintenance. We don't. Other towns have contentious and unproductive boards. We don't. Other towns don't have a top school district. We do. So again, I'd ask, what problem might be solved by changing what we have here today? Our goals and objectives are driven by a smart, diverse, caring, and engaged team. I have to tell you, I'm so impressed by who we have and how they work. We have to be responsive, but not overly reactive. When hard decisions need to be made, as we experienced during the financial crisis when I first came on the board, when at COVID, obviously, rapid increasing inflation, we have the structure and the people to do the work, serve the town, and protect the taxpayers again and again. We don't tout our achievements. We don't blow our own horn. We don't use social media as a megaphone. We never have. We just do our job, whether it's an election year or not, whether or not some national wind is blowing this way or that. We are responsive fiduciaries who check politics at the door and simply serve the town and the taxpayers. In fact, I do meet with every candidate for the Board of Finance, and I do ask them, why do you want to be on this board? What does it mean to you? And he said, well, and then they generally always ask me this question, tell me about the board, what do you think? And I say this, and Chris has heard me say this 20 times, you don't know who's Republican and Democrat on that board when you sit there. And it's because it's not what we focus on. So in summary, I think our results have been strong. I'm proud of our board. I'm grateful for their commitment to the excellence in the service of this town. I think our schools are great. Our audit and finance teams are outstanding. They work well together. They work with our town leaders and our board. The growth in the amount raised by taxation is very competitive, well below inflation and benchmarks favorably against other towns. Our board functions well. It's efficient. It's effective without nasty or negative or partisan behavior. We've built a structured environment of trust, of progress, of results. We bring openness and transparency to everything we do, and anyone can volunteer to help. Overall, I think it's a great result supported by a strong structure. The structure works. It's a success, in my opinion. I think it's a gift. We can bring new blood, which is also important, new members from all demographics. I think that the efficacy of the committee, actually, whether it's elected or appointed, is really based on the members. The charter committee, this is a charter committee, obviously is appointed, it's not elected. It doesn't diminish its value or competency, in my opinion. Appointed committees can work very well. It's about leadership and the capability to get the right members and commitment from those members. If there's feedback from this process, I know it's early in the process, that would help improve our effectiveness or output to the Board of Finance. I know Chris is here. We would appreciate understanding that. Any of that input would be helpful to us in evaluating any of that for anything that we can do to do a better job. Two final thoughts. As the great Yogi Berra said, it's tough to make predictions, especially about the future. We have a successful, enviable model. Once changed, and I think it was made, it'll be hard, if not impossible, to go back. I strongly suggest you leave this pillar of strength and stability as it is, or as Bert Lance said, and I think someone just made this comment, the director of the OMB under Jimmy Carter, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He gets credit for that quote, actually, referring to the unnecessary government intervention that was spending time and money on things that actually worked. So those are my prepared remarks. I can answer any questions. I can tell you a great Laszlo Papp appointment story if you want to hear that.
He's our hero.
Those are my thoughts.
So,
Hope that's helpful.
sorry. No, excellent. Thank you for everything you have done for the many years. I guess I'll start with Penny's point. I'm actually curious to hear, if you're willing, your thoughts or reaction as the budget process goes from the Board of Selectmen to Board of Finance and then final stop with the Town Council. What are your thoughts about the fact that Town Council does not have the ability to raise, that they only have the ability to maintain or cut in that process?
I really haven't given that a second's thought. I will. I think having the opportunity to take a cut was a good move. I think that was also not long ago a change that was made. I don't think in 10 years, a total out of $1.5 billion, I'm not sure the Town Council's cut $10 million in 10 years. So it's, we work hard to do the job, and I think the Town Council challenges this and pushes back there and as appropriately. But as partners, they're also involved. Remember, we don't work in a vacuum. We have liaison committees that work together with the departments in advance. We get guidance on the growth numbers that we want to have. So we work together for months. So there should be no surprise. On the increase, I haven't given it a thought. I have to think about it.
Okay, and for the fellow commissioners, it's C4-12 is where that specifically calls out that reduce and or maintain only.
Angela.
I'm sorry, which seems to work. If you think about it now, over a decade, it has validated all the work that had gotten done prior to getting to the Town Council for them to have that, a de minimis amount of cutting. When I think about it, I hadn't thought about it that until you just asked me the question, but it really does show a good validation of a good process. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your comments. Very interesting, a lot for us to ponder. Could you please comment on the requirement that to be a member of the Board of Finance, you must not only be an elector, but a property owner in town as well? What are your thoughts
You have
about
to be an
that?
elector, you have to be a registered voter?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And a property owner.
I'm no opinion.
We had one situation, that's why it's coming up. We had one situation.
Yeah, no opinion.
Well, I would all.
Yeah, I'll tell you about, we want the best people. We have like I said, we have an independent on there. We have the person,
Yeah.
the CFO of a construction company. I don't even know if he owns a house. To be honest with you, I wouldn't even know. So that's something maybe for you all to look at, but we're looking for the best team. I need a lawyer. I need, I need bond people. That's how we put together a great team. So on those criteria, I'd let this commission think that through. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to comment that Russ brought up Chapter 4, Article 12, which actually starts by saying the Town Council shall pass no appropriation not recommended by the Board of Finance, which is a pretty powerful statement. In the chart that you put in the budget, page 41, you have an organizational chart, and it shows the Board of Finance as not reporting to the citizens or the first selectman as unaccountable. And yet every other, I would say 21 out of 23 towns in Fairfield County, the Board of Finance is accountable because of the election process.
Yeah.
And so I would ask you, our job is to look into the future, 10 years, and provide a charter that will allow a structure for, you have a great team, it's a winning team, and you've done a lot of accomplishments. And I read the article in the New Canaanite, and there was a lot of positive things that you quoted. But we have to protect on the downside. We have to protect on the fact that it might not be you 5 years or 10 years down the road. And if the person in your chair is not doing a good job,
Yeah.
what is the check and balance or the recourse? What is the accountability? And according to the chart you provided, there is none because you don't report anywhere.
Well, we're
It-
appointed or reappointed by the first selectman. We have a 3-year term. So I think that's the first point. The first selectman doesn't want that person to be reappointed. They're not reappointed. So there's a limit of
They're
time.
elected within the Board of Finance. The chairman is
Oh,
elected.
you're talking about the chairman
No, I
or the
understand that.
members themselves? I'm
No, I'm talking
sorry.
about the members.
Oh,
I'm talking about the
yeah,
members.
I'm elected by my board.
Right.
But the members themselves have a 3-year term appointed or reappointed by the selectmen. And it goes through this process and approved by the town council. So there's a lot of vetting in that regard. It's a pretty good process. When you say we're not accountable, I hear your point.
The chart says you're not accountable.
I get you.
The chart you produced
I,
on page 41.
I guess that's a picture on a page, but you're not, I guess you're asking me a different question. We
I-
100% feel like we're accountable to our 2 big constituents, our Board of Selectmen and the town council, who we work with hand in glove on everything.
But your point, similar to some of the other people who spoke, is that we should buy into an anecdotal process, an informal process.
Well, I'm not
When-
making that argument at all. I'm,
Okay.
that's the charter, that's the picture that's been out there for 100 years. I can't say
You have the ability to assign taxes, assessments and
Yeah.
taxes. And yet the people in that process are unelected. So it goes back to the classic.
yeah, but that's not true. No, see, you're wrong. Back to the assignment of the authority that you just said. Please understand, we feel very much accountable to the selectmen who appoint us
Right.
and the town council that approves us.
Right.
Okay.
I'm only
They're
going by the
elected.
chart you put out.
I'm just
And it-
explaining.
I understand.
Okay. It's that's the process.
Right.
So we're very accountable to them. Second
The
of
chart
all.
doesn't say that. You put a
Well,
300.
Sure it does. It says the selectmen appoint us and the town council approve us.
No, well, yes, it's-
No, I don't need it. I don't need
You
it.
don't need
Please, please. You're not listening.
He doesn't want to look at it. He doesn't want to look at it.
If you want to clean up the language, it's fine. And I'm not here to debate the language of that. It's fine. I think I'm just giving you the answer of reality, not the picture. The second point,
It's your picture, page 41.
you
in the
keep saying
budget.
it's my picture. I didn't.
It's from the budget, the FY 25-26 budget.
I'm just sharing with you that I think that probably hasn't changed in 20 years.
No, well.
How we operate.
Maybe we need
I,
to
it's
clean it up.
absolutely fine. If you feel like we need to have a dotted line back to the selectmen, fine. I think that's how we act anyway in the town council. That's fine. But you made another point though, that's not true. We raise the taxes with no accountability. I don't even know how you could even say that.
No, I didn't say accountability. I said no representation. There's nobody in that process that's an elected official.
That's totally wrong. The town council has to approve the budget.
Let me read to you a statement.
Well, does
Board
the
of
town council
Finance
not
may
have to approve the
designate
budget?
Properties that shall be subject to
Always been
special
that way.
assessments.
Always been.
C 514.
But I'm telling you, the town council, which is elected, has to approve the budget that we approve.
Oh, I understand that.
Well, then why are you asking me that? I'm sure.
Because I was asking you about taxing C 514, assessment taxes. You can assess taxes. Right?
I can,
Yeah. Special assessment taxes.
Oh, you're not talking about-
Nobody in that process is elected.
I'm not sure what tax you're referring to.
So I think he's talking about sorry, I was told nobody can hear me. I'm sorry.
By the way.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I think what Mr. Callow is referencing is special assessment, so, which we have never done. But in the event, like, there was an emergency where we did not have enough contingency for the budget. So, every year. the
One-time
budget.
assessment.
So one-time assessment for
Right.
hurricane damage or massive flooding or a fire or something like that. If that happened, that goes to the Board of Finance for a special assessment. It has never happened in the 30 years that I have been in town.
I'm not even familiar with what you're talking about. since we've
Well,
never
we
done
we
it.
can only go by.
It's
what
never
says-
happened. That's why. Nobody's
That's fine.
We can
familiar.
only go by what's in the charter.
Right.
And the
Understand.
charter
Yeah.
says you have the authority
That's right.
as an appointed official.
I like that authority. Thank you.
In an emergency, you need emergency authority of power.
Wait till Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's a glitch in there, I'm sure. I can't imagine
Mine was a
we would, what we would normally do in a special appropriation, make a special appropriation. Obviously, all special appropriations
Right.
have to be approved by the town council. They do.
Doesn't say that in the charter. Doesn't say that.
So we have to, approve. Town council has to approve. We make a special appropriation that has to go through. I know that does. We did that. We went through this in COVID. Anyway, there may be some things around those assessments you may want to think about then. I can tell you how it works, which is that goes to the town council, which obviously, as you know, is elected. If we have that power to make a one-time, didn't know it, never been done,
I
never
was right.
never
I mean,
aware
you
of
said I
it.
was wrong, but I was right.
Well, I thought you were talking about taxes. You said taxes.
Well,
If you made a-
assessment is, okay.
Well, it's
assessment.
very different. We do taxes every year.
Yeah.
That's a three-party, three-group process. Selectmen, Board of Finance, Town Council. This one-off special
You
assessment
you
tax,
can
which we've
issue
never
tax
had.
warrants too.
Okay, but with that one-off, one-time thing you've talked about that we haven't ever done before, if you want to include some language in there, it's fine with us. It's hopefully we never have to do it, but if we do, it's actually not a bad thing if you think about what that circumstance may be. But we would always work with the town. I get what you're saying, of course.
My
so.
point is not that you shouldn't have the authority to do it. My point is the fact that you have this enormous authority.
Yeah.
I mean, the town, Board of Finance section of the charter is literally 25% of the charter when you add up the pages and the paragraphs. I've done it. So you're 25%, and I think even more in terms of the power of it. Now, you have the sewer taxing as well, and you can.
Let's not leave this other one. So on the special tax assessment, if you're asking me if that's something you should look at, I'd have at it. I mean, again, something we've never looked at or done so.
No, that's not my point. My point isn't to challenge that. My point is to say that that's representative of the fact that there should be some accountability in the process, because by your own chart, you're not accountable to anyone. That's the
Yeah,
chart you produce.
You keep saying that. It's not true. So.
Okay, you know what, let's move on. Commissioner Pala, if you'd be kind enough, let's move on.
That's not a very valid point.
Next, go ahead.
Steve Case, just a question. I truly appreciate everything you've done for the town and the diverse team that you've developed.
It's our board, it's not me.
Well, you've got you're leading it. Dual hatting is my question, and you have authority not only for the Board of Finance, but for the sewer and water system, the water pollution control system. And by being a member of Board of Finance, you're a member of these other commissions.
Right.
Do you think that makes sense?
Well,
We've asked this for
couple
years.
thoughts. First of all, it isn't much of a job, but we do two things. It's a taxing authority, right? We assess tax. So that's part of the job, and we do that and very carefully. And our town engineer and public works are really our subject matter experts as it relates to the LED rebedding that has to happen, or relates to anything associated with the capacity of the system, or the study we just had to do around the leakage that was happening, intake process that we had to go through. I think it works. You know, it's not a lot of work, but you'd have to find a whole new group of people to go. You have to find a whole new set of volunteers to do it. So think about that. Don't take that lightly, by the way. But
it
it's
is a
definitely
utilities commission. So.
yeah. So again, it works.
Okay.
To answer your question, it really isn't a lot of time. The only time it became a bigger issue was when we had challenges around some, building projects. But anyway, I mean, I would say it's not a big effort.
Thanks.
I think the team's pretty on it, pretty conservatively managed. We have a pretty big fund to, for deferred maintenance. So I think it's like everything else, prudently managed.
Thank you. First of all, Todd Lampert. Todd, thanks for your 10+ years of service. And I just want to read something for our board here. Everybody's here voluntarily trying to help get the best revisions possible. And specifically, Todd didn't write this, so to be argumentative with him as to what's right and wrong is probably not for me. We're trying to find out what's best for the town, and we can ask questions about that, but he didn't write it. It's not, and he's here to help. So I'm just, first of all, I want to thank you for being here and answering the questions. My main question for you is, in reviewing the charter, is there anything you believe would be helpful for us to look at to change, since you're living it,
I want to add to that too. Is there anything that needs improvement?
Yeah. So that's what I want from you is what could we do better to help the town, in your opinion? We may not follow your opinion, but I'd like your opinion on what we could do better, or the town could do better.
I think the two areas where we could from what I go through every month and every year with the budget, two areas where it's not seamless would be the office of the town clerk sits sort of outside. Talk about accountability. Who does the town clerk report to? And who does the treasurer report to? And I think I would look at the treasurer role. I think that could be something where we could clean that up a little and connect it to the selectmen or the board of, or the CFO or the audit committee. I mean, just things, doesn't need to be reported to the Board of Finance. I don't think that's necessary, but I do think I would look at the governance associated with those roles.
Yeah, I could see that. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Some thoughts off the top of my head, Bill.
Todd, great work. Thanks. Appreciate it. Two comments. One, all these other towns that have elected finance committees, how do they get the diversity of people? I mean, they must have much of that diversity. So how do they do that? And then number two, you had a long list of accomplishments of the committee, and I agree with, if not all of them. The one thing that's not be a surprise to you is we, as a town, have the highest debt per capita in the state. Whose decision is that to have that level of?
So on the first question, what I hear is it's a very big source of frustration to get the mix and the talent in that team that they're looking for. It's not who gets elected sometimes. And they really struggle with that. So they spend money on it. They don't have a lawyer. They got to go spend, they have to go figure it out. They're gonna have to go figure out how to do these things, or, it's a lot harder. So that, I think that's generally what I hear. They get it, either they get it through spending money on it, or they really try to put it together. But I think of some of the towns, and I'm not naming names, but they would say we literally fall short. We fall short. We don't get it done. We can't get the audit done. You probably know those towns. There's some real challenges there. On the debt, our debt, when I started, it was $147 million on a town of a grand list of 8 billion. Now we're 10 billion, and our debt had gotten all the way down. We got all the way down to 92 million, and got off that list. And now it's back up because of obviously the police station and some other things. Who makes the decision? Well, again, the three bodies, we have a capital plan, we have schools, we have buildings to maintain and so forth. What we really try to zero in on is reducing the annual expense of interest and principal, because right now it's about $18 million. We wanted to get our biggest tax cut we could is get that down to 15 or 14. And that's just going to, as you know, we do straight line debt pay down, right? There's no balloon or anything like that. It's straight, everything's straight line. We refinanced everything. But within our long-term capital plan, we know we're going to need schools to be renovated. We know we need roads. We know we need this. We know this. We pushed off the police station about as long as we could put off the police station, but we were able to work the debt down into the 90s before we had to reload. So at least we reloaded at a lower level. I guess we went on a little bit of a debt diet in this last budget that we just passed, and we're going to do it again this year as a way of chipping that away again back down. I'd like it to be lower. And not knowing where things are really going to go with the schools, we're in a pretty good spot. This is done, police is done, roads are on a multi-year program. Everything else is on a cycle. We replace 3 police cars a year. We've got it pretty managed. And if we could get through those big elephants, we'll but
at the end of the day, we capacity of the finance committee.
Well, we'll send the budget to the town council. That includes operating and capital, and the capital, they both have to get approved. And so we do recommend that to the town council, and they approve it. So it's together, I would say. If that's fair.
Todd, can you comment a little more on the relationship with the treasurer and the presenting or representing to you of his? Do you think that's working? Do you think it could just as easily be done within the Board of Finance? Perhaps as a subcommittee?
I'm not looking, I don't know. I think it's fine as a separate function. It is a separate function. Mm-hmm. Although, again, it ought to be accountable to somebody. Being elected doesn't make it accountable in this case. Right. And so I would say it's a 5-hour-a-month job. Let's not overstate what it is. It's not a big deal. Now, it just so happens we can actually make money with our money for the first time because interest rates aren't zero. And so, to be honest with you, I think Andrew and Ann have done a really good job hustling with Bob Hamels and the Board of Finance support and some other members really working it quickly. When rates went up, we were very fast at getting our rainy day fund making money. And so we made over $2 million last year. We'll make $2 million. We made zero. We made $100,000 in some years back when interest rates were low. So that's like a tax cut. I mean, getting that kind of income without asking for it from the taxpayers is fantastic. That's an important job now because you have to, obviously it's combination of available cash flow, liquidity, and everything else that has to happen. But it's 5 hours a month if it's that, approving some expenses which also have to be done. So I don't want to overstate what the job is, but I would like to see it looked at. The answer maybe it's perfectly fine where it is, but I do think it could benefit from a little more governance as a position.
He does sign all of the checks in the town.
He does sign checks, yeah.
He does sign bond offerings.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Brooks has raised his hand.
See on wherever. I'm
Hey.
always,
May I chime in?
yeah, please. Yeah, I didn't. see-
Sure. So, no, I guess I would just beg to differ a bit with the characterization that it's just a 5 hour a month job. I mean, as Mr. Perret just mentioned, right, reviewing the 160 page, audit paperwork as part of the, ACFR process, that takes well over 5 hours just to read that one document, right? And we had to read multiple versions of that one document as part of the annual audit process. And I guess I would also just add that in terms of governance, right, it's an elected position that anyone is welcome to run for, but at the Board of Finance's request, I periodically go, I'd say probably about once a quarter, I give a quarterly financial update on our performance of the investment portfolio, on our cash positions, right across all of the different accounts. I go before the town council and do the same thing, also roughly quarterly. And there I actually volunteer to go because Todd is very conscientious about making sure I get in there every quarter, and he's very closely monitoring our cash position. The town council isn't necessarily as in the weeds on some of those financial questions. So I'll occasionally reach out to them and say, hey, I haven't been there in a while. Can I come and give you an update just for you to factor in as you enter the budget process? So whether the Charter Commission would like to consider more formally saying the treasurer shall report to X commission or committee, I certainly think that's something that could be worth studying. But I do want the committee to know that it's not that it's broken currently or that that's not happening today, because it certainly has been happening for many years, right? I've been doing this job for about 12 years now. And ever since I've, been taking over, investment decision making, I come before those different bodies as well as the audit committee. I guess that's a third one I report to periodically. So again, I think it is an interesting question. Should the charter say the treasurer shall provide, periodic reports to XYZ committees or boards is certainly something to consider, but I certainly don't want the commission to think that hasn't been happening or that something isn't working. But I do take issue with the idea that it's just a 5 hour a month job. It's a lot more than that. And I know I've talked at length with various stakeholders about that, but happy to answer questions.
I wasn't saying it was broken. I would say it would. You asked me if there's anything else we should look at. I think we just should look at that one just from an accountability and governance point of view. Not that it's broken, but it's something that's maybe a little bit different.
Sure. And again, I would just argue that being an elected official provides a lot of accountability to the public. And I have had a contested election before, right? Our current audit committee chairman ran for the position in 2017, and there's a very robust conversation about the treasurer role back then. The community voted. I work very well with my former opponent, who's on the audit committee currently, and I'm invited to his meetings, and I attend and answer questions that they have. But certainly, I think it's an interesting question as to should the charter mandate that the treasurer provide periodic updates to various committees. Again, I think a good treasurer would offer to do that anyway, right? Regardless of being mandated to do so via the charter. So I guess I would leave that to the Charter Commission to look into. I'm not aware of other treasurers being mandated to report to specific committees, but again, something to look into.
I just,
Karen. Sorry.
No, you were next. No worries. Can you give us,
Sorry, Kathleen wanted to.
oh, Kathleen.
No, that's go ahead, Jennifer.
No, go ahead, Kathleen.
Yes, it's 2:39 a.m. in the Indian Ocean right now. Let me just say quickly, Todd, thank you so much for coming to see us. So as Commissioner Paulo said, there are 34 different articles in the charter just referring to the Board of Finance. And we have a small group within the commission that's focused on the Board of Finance. And so there's some technical things that we're going to go through. And if you'd be kind enough, either you or somebody on your on the board who can go through and take a good hard look at everything on there. Is it working? Should things be changed on the technical level? Or one that just pops out at me is the actually last one. It's the penalty for exceeding appropriation. It's quite substantial. And it appears to me, and I'm going to ask my small group here on the commission to do some work on this, but it cites a reference about the town council or any other officers or any board, if they expend or cause to be expended any money of the town or enter any contract in violation of Chapter 5-29. There's a very onerous penalty to that. That is 5-29 is actually something regarding the audit committee. And so I think the reference was never picked up 10 years ago. So we'll just have to further investigate that. And I just say this, Todd, because there are a lot of technical things that, if you could kindly take a fine tooth comb to and share with us when you have an opportunity. Another one would be term limits. I don't think you've commented on that, whether or not term limits would be appropriate here. Another one would be organizational structure. You are the chair, you're elected, I believe, every year by your board. Is there any value in having a vice chair in terms of your organizational structure? You don't have to answer now.
Yeah, that's it. That is an interesting one because when I started in forever, there was a vice chair. It was Bob Spangler. It was my vice. And all of a sudden, I think with the last review, someone came back and said, there is no vice chair. So
we went through that. We did.
We operated
and we eliminated the vice chair.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't think it's a bad idea at all, to be honest with you. Yeah. Now with Zoom, one of the reasons to do that obviously is the absence of the chair. With Zoom, it's, you can, as you can tell from 2:30 in the morning, you can be almost anywhere and be in the meeting. But I actually would think part of that. Yes, to answer your question, yes, we will go through all those details and address the drawing that I made. Apparently, I got to fix that up too. So we'll definitely go through everything because it is important to make sure that some of those things are at least addressed and like that, like the tax assessment is something that we should definitely look at and think about what's the best way to do it for sure. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. And even though I am a volunteer, the fact that it's now 2:42, I am accountable to everybody, and I know that you are too on the Board of Finance, and I do appreciate that. So okay, over to sorry, Jen, I interrupted you. Go right ahead.
Oh no worries. Can you also think about too, or elaborate now about the first selectman role as the ex officio? Yeah, can you give us some
as opposed to the chair?
Yeah,
you could be the chair. You want to be? And I'll be the vice. Well, it's a tiebreaker role,
right?
But it's a very yeah.
I know that's been a point of debate in the past at times.
As a tiebreaker?
No, as a
ex officio.
As ex officio, yeah. I mean, you may not have a thought now. You're welcome to come back.
Again, I'll think about it.
Okay.
My initial reaction, it's phenomenal to have the first selectman at that table for all kinds of reasons, not the least of which is there's continuity from the conversations that are happening around the town in different areas. There's their presence is important because something that comes out, it's immediately communicated. The first selectman's office by default is just integrated into the discussion. She's elected. There's lots of reasons to have that continuity. So I'll give it a thought. I'm not sure what a better option might be, but let me think about that. I favor it, to be honest with you. I think it's terrific. And I think it's right not to have it to be the chair. I think that was a smart move.
And do you also think too, maybe perhaps that we should break out the audit committee as its own entity in further? Because it's contained within the Board of Finance. It might be just a technical. Do you think there's a reason why it should remain in there?
It's just in the same chapter. It was put
Same
in there just
chapter.
because we didn't create a separate chapter for the audit in the charter. It could be broken out. I don't think the Board of
How do you
Finance
think
would
it
care
works?
either way.
How would you say it works as a?
It works just fine.
Yeah,
How it acts
Yeah.
from a practical standpoint.
practical standpoint and
Yeah. But it's its own chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just as tidier.
Okay.
Karen, you were gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to ask, in the towns that you're familiar with that do have elected Board of Finance, do they have more headcount in town hall to do the kinds of jobs
I
that
don't
you
know.
do?
That's a great question. I don't know. Yeah. You mean a bigger finance team?
Yeah, basically to do the things that you do when you're analyzing the
I
budget.
don't know. I
and-
mean, we look at the budget and we benchmark ourselves from an expense perspective, but I actually don't. We're pretty reasonably lean, I think. It's a good question.
Well, what I mean is all the volunteer stuff that you do,
Yeah.
the towns that are elected, and do they just leave it to chance who gets elected? Or do they have permanent headcount in town hall to deal with things? If they elect a Board of Finance that have no finance skills.
Can't do something.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I don't know the answer to it. I never even thought about it. I'll definitely take a look at that. I know from conversations I've had, they've run into trouble or kicked the can because they really can't deal with it, where we can be more efficient dealing with things because of the people that we have on the board. Like, I don't know that other boards have literally like what we had with the police department where that guy was running, literally in the project on a regular basis and it worked so smoothly. So it's anecdotal. Let me do a little homework on it. It's a good question. I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My only
What else?
observation on that, and this is from representing the town to all 12 Board of Finances in 12 towns when we were looking for money for the FAA. The sense of being there was that they were all chiefs. There were no Indians. That's just my own take. I think you need an elected chairman. You need an elected person within at least the Board of Finance, as opposed to everybody's equal because we're all elected. That came out so strong and they voiced it that way. I was amazed. I wondered if I'd ever get any money out of any of them. I did, but it wasn't assumed at all. It's tough. It's a different environment. Maybe you people should, show up at some of these boards of finance in different towns. I'm not sure you'll feel that ours is broken in any way. That's just another thought. I came away with a very different.
I watched, as part of my research for this, several other towns Board of
Okay, what
Finances,
did you
especially with
think?
some hot topic items, and without naming towns. Chaotic would be the
Yes,
word that I
that's
would use
another
to
good
describe
one.
it. And I think some of the points that you had made earlier of the concerns about the individuals that were there, did they perhaps have the best set of skills for that very important role? That was my takeaway without naming specific towns. It was shocking to me for someone who's been in front of and sat before and had to present before our Board of Finance that the difference.
It was like a firing line. It really was. I mean, incredible. So it's food for thought.
We're exceptionally fortunate in the professionalism and capabilities of the people that we have currently in our finance, for sure.
Well, and you make a good point. This is a 10-year play.
Yeah.
I will not be the chairman in 10 years.
Yeah, right.
So, not that I'm anything special, but just, you're right. This has to withhold. I get that for sure.
Yeah, the one thing is, and no matter how we eventually vote as a group, the ability to get the right skill set is most likely hindered through elections. Because it's not sometimes a popularity contest, but to get the diverse roles that you need, whether it be accountants, lawyers, people that understand construction, it's hard to get those through elections, that everybody fits that puzzle.
Well, they have to want to run and then they have to win.
And then they have to fit the puzzle. That makes sense. So
That's right.
not impossible, and towns do it and it works. And
I think we're the road less traveled.
yeah, I understand.
One of the things we probably should look at is, are there in some of these towns elected committees, which then are populated by subcommittees that have the various talents that Todd was talking about? Because it's a little bit hard for one of the problems I'm having, sitting here in a democracy, talking about elections. We shouldn't have elections. Everything should just be appointed.
No, that's not
Okay.
true either.
And where you draw the line. And I know for myself personally, Todd, you know this experience, I was elected for three times as CEO of Delight. And the constituency was pretty knowledgeable. And they got up to speed and they communicated quite strongly, what their needs were. So I'm not yet ready to throw democracy out. I'm not yet ready to change anything. Todd, your committee is doing a terrific job. I saw that up close when I was on the audit committee when we had some issues. Todd and I got off to the corner and we solved those types of things. It's just a really challenging area. But I think we should continue to maintain an open mind on it.
Well, the one thing that I think makes me feel comfortable about that point on the democracy piece is we're sandwiched by the two elected groups that have to be part of this process. That to me is almost why it's perfect, because they have to be the selectmen, town council, and we have to do our work, and it works because we're working together to make that happen. And I think that's why I think it works. I mean, I think a lot of appointed committees, Federal Reserve, that's appointed, audit committees there's a lot that's appointed.
Everything's appointed, except for the House, the Senate. and the
That's
President.
right. Yeah.
Everybody else is appointed.
Mhm. All right. Any other thoughts or questions or,
You almost did as good as Kathleen, timeline. Thanks for your time.
oh God, yes.
Happy to do it, and I've got some homework. I'll get back.
Could you mind giving us your remarks?
Let's talk about
I don't mind. You recorded it, right?
Yeah. Just so we have them.
It might
I'll
not
put
be-
them in the folder. And then if you, I'll reach out to you. I'm in charge of scheduling group 2. We're divided into groups. If you want to come back, we're going to be meeting on Thursday. If you would like to continue the conversation in a smaller setting as well.
I mean.
And anybody else.
And
on the
you'll
group.
reach out.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will. I'm not available for the next month and a half. I mean, my Tuesdays and Thursdays are
Oh,
all
they're
Board of
all,
Finance.
it's tough.
Yeah,
This is budget season, but I will definitely engage when I can, and I'll make sure we're.
And I'll reach out to the other.
I appreciate that. That would be great. Yes, here to provide any input we can. I'm trying to put these pages in order for you.
If you could send that to us electronically, it's just as easy to put it in a folder.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Have fun. Don't stay too late.
Keep at it, right?
Thank you all.
We keep at it.
All right.
Yes.
We're gonna listen to, the conference.
There's one point for people that are doing research. We talked last time about this Connecticut Conference of Municipalities. I did reach out, emailed with the president, and the director of research has agreed to take us on. So anything that we want to get some research on, we could go via this Connecticut Conference of Municipalities. We have an appointed person to work with us. They also have white papers and other issues that Max Friedman is the person's name. He didn't get back to me in terms of some of the white papers on exactly these issues, appointed versus elected, things like that. But we do have a contact there. And best of all, it's free. Because we are members there, they do come in and report to the selectman's office and other areas. But we can lean on this almost analytical staff if you want going forward.
How do we go about doing that?
Why don't we have a contact person? He can be our.
If you want, I've met the
I don't
person.
think we all need.
I think that's true.
Great.
Yeah, I think we'll put in contact.
Yeah.
So as a
I'm
committee,
volunteering you, are you accepting? That's fine.
I'm happy
Any
to,
questions?
as specific a question as you can write it out, I can pass along, and then I'll be the point of contact to be the intermediary if you want. There is a website of data already that I passed around to everybody if you want to find that.
Yeah, that was helpful. Yeah. Okay, Kathleen, is there anything you can add or you want to go nighty night?
Or go to sleep.
I'd like to. Thank you, Madam Chair, for leading a very good discussion.
Kathleen, everybody else on the boat sleeping?
I beg your pardon?
Everybody else on the boat sleeping?
Yeah.
You never
Is
know.
nobody in the back?
Everyone says that the security guy nearly threw me out. So, yeah.
Would you,
Would you like a motion?
Yes.
May I make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
And I'll second that.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Aye.
everybody.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Get some sleep.
Will do.